Hey, welcome to today's class. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you got your assignment one done. Um, if you didn't, it'll be a zero, so you miss out 50 points of your total score. And we've got assignment two coming up this week. We're gonna have a test next week, so we're already getting by about this time next week we'll have 200 of our 550 points for the semester. And remember, 50 is on your class participation, which means just those rather what might seem like meaningless message board questions are a way for us to interact and show that you're participating. So again, that's 50 points. So really, we're at about 250 of our points because um, there's so much more still to go. But if you guys aren't getting on, I can tell you it shows me when you're logging on to Blackboard. So it tells me how much participation you're doing. So please get involved. Last thing I want to do is give anybody a bad grade in here. We'd love to give all A's and B's if that's possible. So I want to start talking a little bit about the nuts and bolts and how to get to some things. If you are a play-by-play announcer, and also it might mean if you're a reporter or just anybody covering a sport. So let's go to the first thing that you always want to develop. Now remember, this will be a test question. What I said the most important quality of a play-by-play person is to be prepared. Everything else, emotion's great, knowledge of the game is great, everything else is great. But be prepared because things are going to happen that you need to know about, and the first person that's going to know if you're not prepared is you. The second person is going to be your viewer or your listeners. They're going to say, this guy, this girl, she doesn't know a thing what she's talking about. It's funny. I looked this weekend, and I'll copy those and maybe I'll print it tomorrow. Texas Tech and the Super Regional had two announcers, Lowell Galindo and Keith Moreland. Keith Moreland, a great announcer. And the Tech fans were really upset, saying these announcers were pro OSU and they complimented of OSU, and they seemed like they were pulling for OSU. And I looked at the Oklahoma State website, exact same thing being said there. Exactly what I told you guys last week. You're going to have to ignore some of those things as an announcer. And how about the Red Raider baseball team, right? Going to Omaha for the fourth time in the last 6 years. Our assignment two this week is going to be preparation. How would you prepare for a game or the College World Series if you were an announcer? And so I'm going to give you an assignment on that in the next day or two that'll be due by the end of the week. But one of the things you want to develop as a sportscaster, as just a person or anyone, is this: trust, the reliance on the integrity, strength, ability, surety, etc. of a person or thing. Confidence. People like announcers that they can trust. They like announcers that they think are doing their job, that are confident in what they're doing. And that's something that is a key for you to be a good announcer. Now, how do you get people to trust you as a sportscaster, especially they turn you on for the first time, they have no idea who you are, they don't know a thing about you. How do you get them to trust you? And it's no different than personal life, right? How do you get people to trust you as a person? How do you get them to like you? Do the right thing by the people you're working with. If you tell them you're going to do something, do it. If you tell them you won't do something, don't do it. If they ask you to move to a certain place, you do it. If they ask you to work with them on something, you do that. Correctly utilizing or not utilizing information. And that means you're going to be around a lot of people. You're going to get a lot of information. Sometimes they'll say, hey, don't use this in your broadcast. It's up to you then to decide as a broadcaster, is this something I want to keep in or out of my broadcast? The golden rule: treat others as you would want to be treated. So on-air people are known as talent. That's just what it is. So if you got different, and we'll go over different jobs later in the week that you have on a broadcast. But talent is the people that's on the air, the people on a camera. It's called talent. A lot of times talent is known for treating people poorly. You don't want to be one of those people. You want to be somebody that treats people very well. So treat others the way you want to be treated. And then check to make sure what you're saying on air is accurate. That might be pronunciations. That might be how a team is done, how a team is performed, anything else. But again, I go back to pronunciations. My last name's kind of hard to say, Giovanetti. I want people to say it correctly. A lot of times people will do a news story on me or interview me for something, and they'll say Govanetti or Glovanetti or Giovanni or whatever, it's Giovanetti. I don't trust them as much as a news person or whatever if they don't get my name or my title right or spelling right. So all the things that you need to do to make sure you're doing correctly. I was listening to a local radio show on Sunday, and they're young guys doing the show, but they seemed completely uninformed. And they were talking about the Texas Tech game against Oklahoma State on Saturday. And if you watch the game, you know that Oklahoma State won it on a wild pitch at the end of the game. And one of the announcers said Tech lost the game when Oklahoma State stole the base to end the game. It's not accurate. It's not correct. It's not even close to correct. And so to me, automatically I started judging that person in my head as this person doesn't know what they're talking about. Don't be that person. Be somebody that understands, makes sure what you're saying on air is accurate. Where can I go? Who can I trust? Well, the first and most reliable person is yourself. I use this picture of me with Coach Tadlock. Coach Tadlock and I have a very good relationship. I've worked with Coach Tadlock a long time. He understands that if he tells me something and asks me not to use it, I'm not going to use it. If he tells me something that he wants me to use, he knows I'll use it. He knows I won't say anything that's inaccurate about his team. He knows I won't go on there and with rumors or anything else. He understands that. So you're the first person you can go to rely on. But that also means to go to practice, go to as many events as possible. Don't have somebody tell you, hey, this person's a really good shooter. You saw it. You've seen it in practice. You've seen it in games. You've seen it in different scenarios. Things you can see with your own eyes, things that you can touch, feel yourself, are much better than other things that you read or see or whatever else. But understanding you can't always be there. So I'm just going to give you some ideas. I don't know why I've got news release on the top there. I think because I was going to do each one on a different page, and I put them on. I ended up putting them on the same page. But let's say you couldn't have gone to the game Sunday when Texas Tech beat Oklahoma State. You could go to the news release, and it's a little slow, but let's open it up. In every school, every newspaper, every outlet puts one of these out after any kind of game. There you go. There's the Texas Tech news release. Heading back, Red Raiders return to Omaha with 8-6 thriller. Josh Young and Kurt Wilson connected on a pair of opposite field home runs in the 8th inning, sending number 8 Texas Tech back to the College World Series following 8-6 victory over number 9 Oklahoma State inside a raucous Dan Law Field at Rip Griffin Park. Now, if you're not there, you personally are not there, how do you know it was raucous? You don't know, right? So you're going off of what Texas Tech said in a news release. So that's a great reason why you should be there. It was raucous. I was there. I know that for a fact. You don't know that if you're not there. But anyway, you can always go to one of those. You can look up something and you can get the information from that. After every event, there is always a press conference of some sorts. Again, always it's good if you're there in person. It's good if you can ask a question yourself, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't be there for whatever reason. So take a look here at the Texas Tech and Oklahoma State post-game press conference that you can use and you can put in your kind of your toolkit afterwards. Don't know why it's only showing 16 seconds of this, but that's probably all we need. Got to watch a commercial first. All right. Yeah, it's awful. Now we just get the ads. That's why it's at 6 seconds, because there's ads. So here's the press conference, 20 minutes, 50 seconds. And I want to go.
We lost the game today. We won the season because we achieved real team.
Let's get to Coach Tadlock. Will make an opening press conference, opening statement. Good thing the internet here at campus is really blazing fast.
This guy next to me, huge at bat. I think he was over going into that at bat. I looked over at him and I said, "Hey, this is your time. Those other bats don't matter." And he goes up there, and I've never seen somebody more intense in a moment, but it's on the scoreboard. Just unbelievable. Great experience.
So you can see the whole thing if you wanted to there. That Kurt Wilson hit a home run. We just saw that in the release. And if you were writing a story, or then let's say you were calling the game on Friday, you could get from that being there, not being there. You could get from that, say, um, Josh Young was talking about that home run. Kurt Wilson had seen a guy so intense. Never seen Kurt so intense. You heard him say it. That's something you can put into your repertoire as you're talking. Every school, Texas Tech is no different. Does post game notes, and this is something that goes out after every game. Obviously, they're a bigger deal when you're going to Omaha, but the notes pretty much wrap up what's happening. So here is on these notes, you can see that the game time, the length of the game, 3.5 minutes, 3.5 hours, the attendance, the weather, all these things. The Texas Tech win sends the Red Raiders to their fourth ever College World Series, improves the Red Raiders to 44-18 on the season. All the things you would want to have in note format, and then little things about different players on there that you can look at, and just some little notables that you can use. If you're doing a post-game show, you could throw those in. Your next pre-game show, you could talk about some of these things that get put out by the notes. I didn't want to open up this online, but every school has a media guide that has a bio on every player and has all historical information that you can use and get out there and get as much information you have. And of course, every school, I believe ours is the best one. Every school has a website, and here you go to Texas Tech, get this flash page about Bound for Omaha, and then you go into the Texas Tech webpage and you can get more information. Obviously, we're trying to really take advantage of the trip to Omaha. We've got lots of different things on there about buying clothes, buying apparel, and everything else. But then here are the stories. There's the Texas Tech claims national championship in track and field. That's on there. If you're doing something about baseball, hey, that's an interesting story that Texas Tech, playing for a baseball championship, just won a track and field championship. All these other things that are in there on the notes and on the webpage. And these are just ways that you get yourself prepared, even if you're there in person. But these are ways, if you want to be prepared, and we talked about that being the most important thing, if you want to be prepared, these are ways that you can get to that point. Texas Tech's playing Michigan. First game of the College World Series next Saturday. It's coming up Saturday. You're in charge of the game. You're on radio, you're on television, you're doing it on the internet. You don't know a thing about Michigan. Texas Tech beat Michigan earlier this year, twice actually, 3 times actually earlier this year. Let's say you didn't watch the game, you weren't there. You were like me, you were following the basketball team in the regionals. Well, one of the things you want to do is learn a little bit about Michigan. So you can go to a website like this, the Detroit Free Press, Michigan baseball. What to know about the College World Series bound Wolverines, and it gives you everything you'd want to know, right? After finishing second in the Big Ten standings and falling to Nebraska in the conference tournament, it looked unlikely that they would even get in to the NCAA tournament. But the Wolverines earned one of the final at-large bids, and they beat Oregon State, Creighton, and Cincinnati to make it to the Supers, and now they took care of UCLA. And so, again, this is a team that Texas Tech really manhandled earlier this year and now playing in the first game of the College World Series. The other thing you could do, again, going back to the website, you could go back to the Texas Tech website and look at the game stories from when Texas Tech played Michigan. I think I got a capital I there. And then, just like we showed you about Texas Tech, you go to Michigan's website, go blue, go big blue, and learn about the Michigan team. Why these Wolverines are headed to Omaha. Their next event, Saturday, June 15th, playing against Texas Tech. They're going to have a movie night at the Big House on June 22nd. Little nuggets you could put into your broadcast, even if you're not calling a football game, as you can see there about movie night. When you're calling the game, my partner's Gus. I say, Gus, Big House, one of the biggest football stadiums in the country. In a week from now, they're going to be having a movie night. And I'd have to go look and see what the movie is, but things you can throw into a 3.5 hour broadcast when you're trying to fill time, it really sometimes can really help you out. So these are just a few of the things, and this is something you're going to get to do for an assignment, and that's prepare for an opponent and talk about the next an opponent coming up. There are people you can get to talk to. If it's college athletics or even a professional, there's media relations directors, people that are used to dealing with people like us. And I say that now, us. I'm an administrator. I'm also talent because I call some games. But when another team comes in here, I get with their media relations person and I ask them different questions about their team. Team personnel is another. This is more in the pro ranks. You can talk to general managers, uh, player personnel managers, those kind of things that you have maybe more of those than you have in college athletics. And the other great one is your counterparts, right? Um, every school in the country generally has a play-by-play person. Obviously, every professional team has a play-by-play person. So you talk to them. You talk to them, and you get to know them. Hey, who on your team is playing well? Who on your team can we look to? What's this guy going to do in these situations? These are things how you prepare. One thing that this seems really very simple, but I see this especially with college students all the time, is they're not properly credentialed. And I just pulled these from the NCAA website for softball. And generally, there's all kinds of different credentials that you have. But that's a great thing to learn right from the beginning. Get a credential. Sometimes I can't tell you the number of times at a football game, on the first game of the year, there'll be students trying to get in the game to work for the radio station or the newspaper or whatever. They don't have credentials because they didn't go through the credential aspect. So get that taken care of well before anything goes on. Just some other things to be prepared. Mike Emmerich does hockey for NBC, and you see Mike's spotting board, and we'll talk to some play-by-play guys later this week about their spotting charts, and everybody does it differently. Mike says it takes him 8 hours to prepare for a broadcast that he does. As you can see here by the picture, he handwrites everything in there, and he uses different colored ink for different things. So if something is a team high, he'll put it in a different color so it really stands out to him. So if somebody leads the team in goals, he knows immediately, hey, I can go to this stat right here, and I know it's in green, or I know it's in, I don't know his color system, but there you can see the different colors he uses. I see red, I see blue, I see green, I see black, all the colors in there that he uses in there. And then he also writes down biographical information about the players, and he puts that on his different things that he wants to talk about in a broadcast. He scours the notes. I showed you some post-game notes. I'm about to show you some pre-game notes. He scours them and takes tidbits from that he puts on his chart. And again, he's reading his chart during the game, and he also thinks by writing it down, by handwriting it, it helps him remember things. And so here's a Texas Tech pregame notes before the series against Oklahoma State. And so you can see here on the left, it's got Texas Tech schedule from the year, all the games. This will be important when we play Michigan later in the year because there's 3 games against Michigan right there. One 11-2, one 10-3, and one 8-6. Here's some things about the first game. Here's the schedule. Here's the TTU and the OSU projected rotations. All that would be in your notes. And these notes are obviously, this note package, I believe, is 42 pages long. And generally, it's the play-by-play people that are the ones that access those because they're looking at all the information. You see across the top here, 14 NCAA tournament versus 3 College World Series appearances. These will all have to be updated because if you haven't heard, Texas Tech is going to Omaha. So all the things you put into getting ready for your broadcast. And the last thing I want to say is ignore the haters, right? We told you this already, that you get everything going, you get as prepared. If you're prepared, you do as good a job as you can do, and you're enthusiastic, and you're ready, and you're on point, and you're doing all the things you can do. You can't worry about what others think about you. So ignore the haters. They're going to be out there. People love to hate on people who do these kind of things, right? Because it's easy to sit back and be the one that's critical and complaining and making comments when you're not the one doing it. So again, preparation. That's the key we want to do. These are some steps to help you get prepared. We'll talk more about these in the Walls lecture. So go to the message boards, answer the message boards, and look for assignment number 2. So thank you very much, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.